Greetings, my friends and loyal subscribers. Welcome back to today's story. I'm so glad you decided to join me. We're picking it up in the year 2000, and the year started on fire. We were booked to play the Gasparilla Festival. It's a pirate festival in Tampa, Florida in February. Debbie got us this booking. She had been sending our press kit out all over, and festival offers were coming in from everywhere. So to tune up for the gig, we booked a night in Ybor City, which is not too far from Tampa, kind of a little sub area. We had a great night. The next day, we arrived at the big outdoor stage. We set up our equipment. The other bands were playing, and I went out behind, maybe 100 yards back behind the stage, just to lie down in the grass and smoke a doobie. Well, as I was lying there, I saw some guys that looked like they had to be a band, and it turned out they were the band that went on before us. So they said to me, "Hey man, how come you're not in your motorhome? Why are you out here smoking weed?" And I said, "What motorhome?" And they said, "Oh, that big motorhome. That's for you. That's for your band. That's your dressing area and hangout." And I said, "Oh, well, thanks for telling me. I didn't know that." So I went in and I told the other guys, and we all regrouped inside the motorhome. When it was time for us to go on, we saw the next act and we said, "Hey man, feel free to use the motorhome." And they said, "Hey, thanks." So they went in and we were on the stage and we started up. And we were into the second song, and I looked over to the side and I think I saw some police and other uniformed people sort of rushing the motorhome. Evidently the smell had gotten around. "I don't know nothing. I'm on the stage. What are you talking about?" So it was a really beautiful day, and the set flowed like water. Now, my friend Steve Blodgett was in town, and he's a great photographer. I invited him to come take pictures of the show, but he never made it. He said, "Oh man, I met this chick and she got me high and we were up all night fucking, and sorry, I'll get you the next time." I said, "Okay, cool." So I decided to book some time for the next record at Prairie Sun Studio out in Cotati, California, once again. Now, Debbie and I hadn't been getting along that well, and she was a former trumpet player. And I decided if she could play some brass with Dave on the next record, maybe it would help bring us closer together. So we flew out to California, and I brought the new material. I'm sure I mailed it to Ray, and we did the same exchange of CDs in the mail. And the idea was to play the Golden Bubble in Chris's club and rehearse them. Well, Dave didn't show up. He had pawned his saxophone. He had a crack habit. And no horn. So no horn, no gig, he didn't show up. So Debbie was there by herself, and she played the trumpet parts that she had worked on to go with the horn parts, but Dave wasn't there, so that fizzled. Well, we got back to Atlanta, and we had a gig booked at the Atlanta Blues Festival. So I booked some dates around town, and I remember the night before the Atlanta Blues Festival, #2, we were playing at the Blue Sky Tavern in McDonough, Georgia. Now, Dave Parnell, my horn player, God bless him, rest his soul, he was just the funniest guy sometime and a joy to hang out with. In fact, when he was playing with Jimmy McCracklin, who's also, real name is David Walker, they were playing the Shadow Club in Dallas one night, opening for Freddie King. And when Freddie got there, his bass player didn't show up. Well, Dave was multi-talented. He could play the flute, the drums, the horn, the guitar, the bass, just about everything but the piano. So he ended up playing bass the whole night with Freddie King after he played with Jimmy McCracklin, opening up for Freddie. That was such a cool story. So we're set up and we're walking back to the car, and Dave usually had a toothpick, and you know, it's like this, and a guy was handing out flyers everywhere. And he saw Dave and he ran up to him and he said, "Hey man, do you like the blues?" And Dave said, "I love the blues." And the guy said, "Great, here, take this flyer. You know, Bobby B and the All-Star Blues Band is here tomorrow night, and they're the greatest. Bobby B is the man." Dave looked it over, sucked on his toothpick, said, no, he's not the man. Forrest McDonald is the man. And I'm Dave Parnell, his tenor saxophone player. Good day. And we walked off to the car. It was just a priceless moment. What a feeling. It was great. So the Atlanta Blues Festival came up. Oh, okay. I think it was WREK 91.1 had the Friday night fish fry. And they had been on the air playing blues and jazz for a long time. And they asked us to come and play live on the radio. So we did, and it was up a flight of stairs. And Rob Roberti, our drummer, was 6'4", and he had his drum kit, and we had to squeeze up and around to get in this studio and into this little booth. But we played on the air, and it was really a lot of fun. And on the wall was written, Ray Charles, 1956, February. Yeah, all of the big artists who had played live there had written on the wall. So it reminded me of Benny Goodman in the Let's Dance program. And it was great playing live over the radio. So the next day was the Atlanta Blues Festival at the Tabernacle live with 6, 7, 8 bands, I don't know. I hired a film crew to film the whole thing for us. Just my band, of course, but other bands, we were up in the green room and watching the performances from up there, and somebody said, "Hey, do we get filmed too?" And I said, "I don't know. Did you hire somebody?" I said, you can make an offer to my guy if you like, but other than that, I don't think you're getting filmed." So we got some good film for it. It was a beautiful show. And I've got one clip from the Atlanta Blues Festival.
Let's give a big Atlanta welcome to Forrest McDonald, Raymond, Victor, and the 3D Blues Band.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Baby, let me try to explain. You're gonna drive me crazy if you walk out on me again. I'm begging you now, darling, I just don't understand the way you treat me, honey. I believe you toss an anger out to a drowning man. I've got your number just as sure as anything. Nothing scares you, don't expect a goddamn thing. So I'm begging you now, darling, I just don't understand the The way you treat me, honey, I believe you toss an anchor out to a drowning man. Yeah, yeah. So I'm begging you now, darling, I just don't understand the way you treat me, baby. I believe you throw an anchor out to a drowning man. Up again, come on, man. Baby, let me try to explain. Gonna drive me crazy if you walk out on me again. I'm begging you down, I just don't understand the way you treat me, honey. I believe you throw an anchor to a drowning man.
Let's give a big Atlanta welcome to Forrest McDonald, Raymond Victor, and the 3D Blues Band.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Baby, let me try to explain. You're gonna drive me crazy if you walk out on me again. I'm begging you now, darling, I just don't understand the way you treat me, honey. I believe you toss an anchor out to a drowning man. I've got your number just as sure as anything. Nothing's Guess you don't expect a goddamn thing. So I'm begging you now, darling, I just don't understand the way you treat me, honey. I believe you toss an anchor out to a drowning man. Yeah, yeah. So I'm begging you now, darling, I just don't understand the way you treat me, baby. I believe you throw an anchor out to a drowning man. Uncle Dave, come on, man. Baby, let me try to explain. Gonna drive me crazy if you walk out on your day. I'm begging it out, I just don't understand the way you treat me, honey. I believe you throw an anchor to a drowning man. Till my teardrops hit the floor. I said, people, I'm hurting. Ever since last Wednesday night. I said, people, I'm hurting. Ever since last Wednesday night. Come on, walk a little line. Oh, I knew this something was right. I'm hurt. Yeah, I'm hurt. People, I'm hurt. Oh, I'm hurting so bad. I'm crying to you, honey. Oh, I'm hurt.
And then the next day, the Atlanta Blues Society had a picnic. And fried chicken and potato salad and coleslaw and watermelon. And Steve Blodgett was there for that. And he took some fabulous black and white pictures of all of us eating the watermelon. It was a lot of fun. We flew out to California to Ray's house first, and then the next day we were booked to play all day at Prairie Sun Studio recording with Ralph Patlin again as our engineer. And we were following the same game plan as the previous year with Spirit of the Blues, and we were all gonna play live in the big room. Well, Robert Birdie didn't come with us on the trip. We used Cap because he was the West Coast guy. On the way, we stopped at a music store. I was going to record an old Josh White song, one of the first that I had ever learned, because Josh White was the first performer I ever saw live. I was in the 2nd grade, and we were in Madison, Wisconsin, and my dad took the family out to this outdoor stage, and we threw a blanket out about 2 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon, and Josh White came out and played these spirituals and folk songs. It was like an arrow of blues through my heart. It felt so good. It was like a blanket that kept me warm at night. So as a tribute, I was playing one of his songs on the record, and I needed an acoustic guitar. Well, Ray's wife, Diane, had an acoustic, but I needed new strings. We stopped at the music store, and I said, I need a set of acoustic guitar strings. And the guy said, well, what kind? And Ray, who could be funny when he wanted to, he jumped in and he said, well, do you have those new pre-cut, pre-tuned strings? And the guy said, sure, let me get them. And he's down there looking around, and he popped his head up and he said, hey, do they make those? And we broke up laughing because of course they didn't, but he fell for it. So we had a great time recording, and I had called my friend Dave Hayes, who was in my band Pale Rider back in '69. Well, Dave had gone to the West Coast and he joined up with Jesse Colin Young, and then he played 25 years with Van Morrison. Well, he was on a break with Van and living in Point Reyes, and he drove down to Cotati to the studio. And he went with us on our dinner break, and we caught up on old times and just had a really good time, but the visit was too short because Dave is such a great guy, and whenever he and Van Morrison were playing anywhere near me, he'd offer me tickets. So God bless you, Dave. Well, the recording went really well, and I flew back home to have it pressed up and the cover designed and everything else. My friend Doug Ketchum, who went by the alias Blackjack, had now taken over the Tuesday morning spot at WRFG, and his wife Barbara went by AJ, and she has AJ's Kitchen. So Blackjack's 6 to 8 and AJ's 8 to 10. Well, Doug is a great photographer too, and we met downtown Atlanta, and he took some pictures of me coming up out of the subway with this graffiti on, which I had an artist change to Forrest McDonald with Raymond Victor and the 3D Blues Band. Special guests, Roy Gaines and James Montgomery. We also walked by a lottery ticket sign, a vendor, and it just worked out perfectly where all of the titles went on the lottery winning number list. Well, I forgot to mention, after I recorded in Cotati at Prairie Sun, the next day I flew down to Roy Gaines. Okay, here's a significant part of the story. When we were playing at the Gasparilla Festival, or in town during that period, Roy Gaines was playing at Skipper's Smokehouse. on behalf of the Suncoast Blues Society, Roy Gaines was playing at Skipper's Smokehouse. I had corresponded with Roy and talked about the possibility of him doing a song on my next record, and he was all for it. So when we stopped by his set at Skipper's, we saw the first show, and he was great, man. He was doing the splits and flips and everything. He had recorded with Billie Holiday and with the CC Riders, Chuck Willis. So Roy had been around forever. He called himself the blues man for life. Well, we were talking on the break, and he said, this amp they rented for me really sucks. Have you got anything? And I happened to have my gear in the car because we had played the festival. So I said, sure, and he loved my amp. So he took a break, and I said, hey, can we get up and entertain while you take your rest? My whole band is here. And he said, sure. So we got up and played. I think we were on our third song, and one of the guys from the Suncoast Blues Society got a little excited. And he said, Forrest, hey, this is the Roy Gaines show. What are you doing? And I said, well, Roy and I are friends, and he invited me here to play on his break. And he said, oh, okay. So we solved that one. At the end of the night, I told Roy I would see him in LA in April. So when we were in the studio in Coctati cutting What's It Gonna Take? Because that's about what I was feeling at the moment. So after we cut all of the songs, we added an instrumental. And I took the instrumental down to LA the next day where I had a studio booked, and Roy showed up. And he was really happy. He said, man, I just bought my first Rolls Royce, and my goal in life is to have two. I said, beautiful. So we played the song. He broke out the lyrics that he had come up with. We recorded it. It sounded great. I went back to Atlanta. But I had one more stop to make. In May, I went to the W.C. Handy Blues Awards again. And I saw my old friend James Montgomery there. Now, James and I were in the Boston Rock Symphony together in 1969. And I said, hey, man, I'd like you to play on 2 T-Bone Walker songs I'm recording on my next album. Are you interested? And he said, man, I'd love to play on any T-Bone Walker songs. Here's my info, call me. I said, great. So I got back to Atlanta from LA. I called James. I had the studio booked in Newport, Rhode Island, where he was living. Flew to Boston, rent a car, drove on down, picked him up. We drove to the studio, and we overdubbed 2 T-Bone Walker songs. Man, the end of one, I think it's Mean Old World. He plays this riff that Paul Butterfield wished he could have invented. I mean, it was just unbelievable. So having James on the record and Roy Gaines topped it off, and that's when I said, you know what, this is an incredible record. I'm going to call it What's It Gonna Take? Now, it featured a lot of horn and piano because I was really big into 40s jazz and blues at the time. And that was the sound that I was going after. So it wasn't a killer lead guitar dominated album. It was more of a, an overall 40s, 50s sound. It was an overall 40s, 50s jazz blues sound, like I was saying. Well, the reviews were great. And a friend of mine, Johnny Barnes, called me up and he said, man, this record is so much guitar and sax. Why did you even do it like that? And I said, Johnny, because that's what I'm feeling like at the moment. Not every album I make has to be Guitar Hero type stuff. But that did sort of light a fire under my butt, and I said, okay, The next record is going to be scorching guitar. So I'll leave that at that. The reviews came in, they were really positive. Everything was going great. And then bingo, I got hit with some personal tragedies. 3 in a row. In September, my first keyboard player, Bob Wiegand, we called him Bull. He wrote me a letter, an email, and he said, Howie, I'm going in for lung surgery on Monday. I've got lung cancer, and they said they can cut out half a lung, and I won't miss it, and I'll be fine. So I said, well, God bless you, I'll pray for you, and good luck. Let me know when you're better. About 2 weeks later, I got a letter from his wife saying, Howie, this is Jenny. Bob died during surgery. When he was unconscious, he had a heart attack, and they didn't even know it. And so he never came out of the anesthesia. So that was really Bluesville for September. Then in October, my cousin Barton was murdered in New Orleans. My Uncle Sandy was so distraught, he called me to have me deal with the police and try and apprehend the crooks. But Barton was a wildcatter out on the rigs and had come into town and was actually in a Crescent City bar and wanted to whoop it up and got in a fight with some locals, and one thing led to another. So that was terrible. Then November, my grandma Reed, who was 102, died on Thanksgiving in the nursing home, which was tragic. And I thought, okay, I'm done with these tragedies for the year. But I got one more on Christmas Day when my grandma on my dad's side passed away. After everyone called her and said, Granny, Merry Christmas. We've all opened our presents. We're all happy. Well, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock my time, she lay down and that was it. But when I was little and there was ever any moral doubt as to what should be done, she would tell everyone. She'd say, Howie, what would Jesus do? I'd say, you're right, Gran. Okay. So God bless her soul, that was 4. And so it was a bittersweet, great musical year, but it was tragic from the death of my family and friends. That's the way it goes. So I'm going to play you some clips, one from April of 1999 that I couldn't find in my last video, but I found it, and you'll see where we first hit Atlanta, the difference to 1 year later. It's quite remarkable.
Is spinning around. Like the world keep turning, life is upside down. I'm out the blues, but it's not gonna get me down. I say, hey, hey, yeah, 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 yeah. It's my baby. Life is tough, but it's not gonna get me down. Jumping the sun that I hollered out, baby, better look down, look down. Here she comes, she's mad at you. She got to know my feet, your time is through.
And by the way, if you'd help support the channel and help us grow, you can really do me a solid by hitting the like button, share it with a friend, but most importantly, if you subscribe to the channel, that will give us a bigger placing in the search engine, and we can reach more wonderful listeners like yourself. So thanks for coming along and riding the blues train with the old-time rock and roller. You know how it goes. Keep the love in your heart and the song in your head. And I will see you down the story highway in the next chapter in the life of the old-time rock and roller. So long, my friends.